Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. Got a new day, which of course means a new MLB Player Prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. That's right, guys. I am back. I am back from my long vacation over in Greece, visiting family, visiting loved ones, having some great food, spending every day by the beach. Was a fantastic vacation. I'm happy to be back. I want to say thank you to each and every single one of you, especially my regular viewers, for your patience during this time. It's been over 2 weeks since my last video. I did announce I was leaving for Greece. I'm officially back here and ready to rock and roll. And I'll be honest, despite having a fantastic time, I did miss this, and I missed all of you a lot. It's great to be back in studio. It feels good getting back behind the camera with the microphone and everything, and to talk some MLB player props with you guys. And I am fully recharged, ready to go. Obviously, football on the horizon. This was the perfect time to go ahead and take a vacation, to get myself prepped and ready to go for the busiest time of the year for me in terms of videos. So doing good, as you can see by the tan and everything. We are in a great mood. The vibes are immaculate. Hopefully that goes ahead and translates over to the picks in today's video. But moral of the story, guys, I'm back and I'm not going anywhere for a very long time. No vacations planned on the horizon. As for now, we'll see. But for right now, I have no plans. I am here to stay and just pump out picks and videos for you guys. So with all that being said, we got a ton of great picks to get to in today's video. Let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into today's MLB picks. Quick little shout out to Ev and Trey for holding it down while I was gone. Of course, they've been doing fantastic, and Ev always stands on business. I give him credit. Even when he goes on vacations, he does his videos. For me, not really possible when you're sharing a house with 6 people and you know the time differences and everything and how the Wi-Fi works over. It just would have been a mess. So thank you to Trey and to Ev for keeping the channel going and doing all the hard work they normally do. It's been fun to watch. I've been watching a lot of their videos. Ev, he's a pretty good sports bettor, I gotta say. All right, guys, let's get down to business here. Our first player prop in today's video, our first of 5 player props that I'm handing out in today's video. We've got Angels, Mets, 1:10 p.m. first pitch. We got Sean Mania of the New York Mets over 5.5 strikeouts. We're grabbing this from minus 115 odds is the best available to me. It is available on multiple sports books for varying odds. As always, guys, make sure to go ahead and shop around for these best sportsbook odds available. It's very important, especially when it comes to finding value on these player props. So minus 115 is what I'm grabbing it for over on FanDuel. And the data is very solid here in this player prop. 7 of his last 10 starts dating back to last season. He's cashed this over. It's, of course, a 70% hit rate, averaging 5.5 strikeouts per game across his last 10 starts. Now, the kicker here is that he's only started 1 game so far this year. Back on July 18th, less than a week ago, was his season debut versus the Reds, and he had 6 strikeouts in what was an 8-4 loss for the Mets. So the data I'm going to talk about with this player prop, take it with a grain of salt because the majority of those numbers do come from last year. This is only his 2nd start of this season. That being said, the data that we are going off of from last year, it's all very solid. He cashed this over at a 56% hit rate overall last year, averaging 5.64 strikeouts per game overall last season. Now, he only pitched 4 innings in that game versus the Reds, but obviously with each and every subsequent game, I'm assuming his innings are going to be increasing. Now, I don't know if he's going to pitch a 9-inning shutout here, only his 2nd game returning from injury, but I do think that you're going to see at least, I would say 5 innings, which honestly I think is all we need to cash this player prop. Again, he had 6 strikeouts in just 4 innings in his last start, and I expect him to go a little bit farther along in this one. Even better matchup, honestly, for him. But again, last 10 games dating back to last year, really solid numbers here. And the matchup is phenomenal. The Angels batting versus left-handed pitchers has been terrible, which obviously is very good for us. Overall, this year, the Angels' 27.7% strikeout rate versus left-handed pitchers. That is by far the worst mark in Major League Baseball. Also dead last in terms of walks per strikeouts. Really bad numbers. Now, over the last 30 games, they have improved in some of those categories. The strikeout percentage is still very high, which again is very good for us, 26.9%. That is still bottom 3 in Major League Baseball versus left-handed pitchers. And although the walks per strikeouts numbers have actually gotten a lot better for them, I still think this is a very solid matchup. And actually, if we jump over the dashboard over on GuyBostonSports.com, you will see consistently over the last 30 days, they are one of the worst teams in terms of strikeout percentage, 25th overall, 27th versus left-handed pitchers, and 24th on the road versus left-handed pitchers. Much smaller sample size, yes, but some pretty good numbers there. And I know, again, take it with a grain of salt because he only has one start this year, but in that one start in the 4 innings pitched, he had Sean Mania was way more successful versus the right-handed hitters than he was the left-handed hitters. And to his benefit, this Angels lineup consists mostly right-handed hitters. This is, of course, the projected lineup. But 7 right-handed hitters in this lineup, and again, based off of the small sample size we have here with Sean Mania, it looks like it should be a pretty favorable matchup here for the strikeout player prop. So that's our first player prop in today's video. Moving right along, guys, our second player prop in today's video, we have Cardinals Rockies 3:10 p.m. first pitch. We got Michael Toglia of the Colorado Rockies under 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. We are grabbing this myself personally minus 118 over on BetMGM, but again, a number of different options for varying odds on different sportsbook here. So the data is absolutely fantastic. 9 of his last 10 games, Michael Toglia has cashed this under, averaging just 0.7 hits, runs, RBIs per game over his last 10 games. If you want to go ahead and stretch the numbers out to the last 20 games, still very solid numbers, 85% hit rate over the last 20 games. Again, averaging 0.9 hits, runs, RBIs per game over the last 20 games. And even if we go ahead and stretch the numbers out to the entire season view for Michael Toglia, a 70% hit rate on the under overall this year. 57 out of 81 games he's cashed the under, averaging 1.35 hits, runs, RBIs per game this year. Now, from the overall season perspective, you do see that average increase. However, the numbers are still very solid across the board. As you can see from the data here, he's not allergic to having really big games, quite a number of big games this year. But again, the majority of the time, he's cashing the under. And it's a pretty favorable matchup here. Look at the head-to-head history versus St. Louis. 5 of his last 8 matchups with the Cardinals, he's cashed this under. That's a 63% hit rate against St. Louis, averaging 2 hits, runs, RBIs per game. Now, 7 of these 8 matchups are from last year, so these are old data points. So again, take that with a grain of salt. Just like the Sean Mania stuff, last year's numbers, a little bit outdated. Can we still take something from it? I think so, but it is outdated, so take it with a grain of salt. Only one of those 8 matchups with the Cardinals is from this year, and it was last night. He did have a run, but no hits and no RBIs, and what was an 8-4 win for Colorado. We also have the insights provided by Outlier here. Michael Toglia has failed to exceed 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 5 of his last 6 games at home, averaging 1.2 hits, runs, RBIs per game across the last 6 home games, which does include last night versus the Cardinals. Now, looking down below here at the key matchup stats, we do see a lot of favorable numbers. Michael Toglia versus Palante, the pitcher for the Cardinals. 3 plate appearances, kind of a small sample size, yes, but taking what we have to go off of, 3 plate appearances since 2018. He doesn't have any hits. He doesn't have any RBIs, no home runs. He does have an on-base percentage, so he's got on base once, probably a walk or maybe, a sack fly, although he didn't get an RBI, so not really. The key point here is he doesn't have any hits and no RBIs and nothing like that. Again, only 3 plate appearances, so not a ton to go off of, but using what we have, it looks pretty solid. Now, Michael Toglia is a switch hitter, so he primarily, I guess, would be a left-handed batter. He hits lefty more than he hits righty, but he's a switch hitter, so he'll go ahead and utilize whichever advantage he can take here, and obviously, as you can see by the numbers, if he bats righty, he'll have way more of an advantage here versus Palante. But honestly, I'm not all that concerned with Palante's numbers here. What I'm really looking at here is Michael Toglia because his numbers are not good from an overall standpoint. And when you narrow it down even further to his hitting numbers versus right-handed pitchers, it's even worse. 184 batting average, 55.2, WRC plus, really low numbers. Even though, yes, Palante, when Michael Toglia as a switch hitter hits righty, he's going to have a better matchup here versus Palante. I just think that his hitting numbers are so low that even though Palante, he's not having the best of seasons, I still think that the under is the right play. And I mean, if you look over at the dashboard over on GuyBostonSports.com, the last 30 days, still Michael Toglia, 153 batting average versus right-handed pitchers, 497 OPS. So it's pretty consistent all year long and of late. He has struggled versus right-handed pitchers. And if we go ahead and look over at the Cardinals bullpen, it's really solid. Top 10 in ERA, top 10 in WHIP. So really good numbers in terms of the bullpen stats. So again, even if Palante comes out, the bullpen should be able to go ahead and cash the under here. So I like this as the second player prop in today's video. All right, guys, our third player prop in today's video, we have Astros Diamondbacks, 3:40 p.m. first pitch. We got Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Grabbing this for -135 over on BetMGM. But again, the same story for all these player props. You can find them on a couple of different sports books for a number of varying odds. Jose Altuve has cashed this over of 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 7 of his last 10 games, averaging 2.9 hits, runs, RBIs per game over the last 10. So pretty good numbers there. And if we go ahead and look at the last 20 game data to go ahead and stretch it out a little bit further, still really solid, 70% hit rate. And actually the average is even better. He's averaging 3.25 hits, runs, RBIs per game over the last 20 games. So phenomenal run here over the last 20 games for Altuve. If we go ahead and look at the overall season numbers, they're still pretty good. Not as good, obviously, as the last 10 games or the last 20 games, but still pretty solid. 51% hit rate on the season. 50 out of 98 games, he's cashing the over, averaging 2.18 hits, runs, RBIs per game this season. And for me personally, 50% or higher from a season standpoint is what I look for in my data. Literally the filter I put in on Outlier when I'm doing my research is 50% or higher for the season numbers. So as long as you're getting it at least half the time, I like looking at your player props. Less than half the time, I'm a little more wishy-washy. Now, from a head-to-head perspective, 4 of his last 5 matchups with the Arizona Diamondbacks dating back to last season, he's cashed the over. That's an 80% hit rate, averaging 4.2 hits, runs, RBIs per game over the last 5 matchups with Arizona. So just good data here all across the board. And even the insights provided by Outlier are very solid. Jose Altuve has exceeded 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 8 of his last 10 games on the road, averaging 4.1 hits, runs, RBIs per game across the last 10 road games. So again, pretty good numbers in every key category here for Jose Altuve. Looking down below at the key matchup stats, Altuve versus Brandon Pfaadt. I always suck at his name pronunciation, and I've listened to it so many times, I still just forget it, and I just end up going Brandon P. So Brandon P. 3 plate appearances, Altuve versus Brandon P. since 2018. Again, 3 plate appearances, not a ton to go off of, but he does have a couple hits off of him in those 3 plate appearances. Altuve hitting pretty well overall this year, and versus right-handed pitchers, even better. 291 batting average overall, 128.8 WRC plus. And if we refer to the dashboard over on GuyBostonSports.com, over the last 30 days, Altuve's been even better versus right-handed pitchers. 333 batting average with a 1.043 OPS. So again, pretty good numbers across the board from an overall standpoint and from a recent standpoint for Jose Altuve versus right-handed pitchers. And then when Brandon P comes out, the Diamondbacks bullpen, bottom 5 in both ERA and WHIP in Major League Baseball rankings. So not a very good bullpen here in Arizona. Pretty good matchup for even when the starter comes out. We should still have a very good matchup on our hands here. And you do see Brandon P, 258 batting average allowed versus right-handed hitters. Slightly better than his left-handed hitter marks. But again, 258 batting average allowed. Not exactly a great numbers, as you can tell by the color coding here. Yellow to a slight orange color. Not terrible, but not good either. Good for us, indeed. So pretty solid player prop here for Jose Altuve. All right, guys, before we dive into our 4th player prop in today's video, please comment "he's back" down below if you're still watching this video at this point. As always, guys, we appreciate those who watch through each and every single video here on the channel. Myself, Ev, and Trey, it means a ton to us when you guys stick around and watch all the way through. So if you are still watching at this point, thank you very much. And please comment "he's back" down below in the comment section. All right, guys, so our 4th player prop in today's video, we have Red Sox, Phillies, 7:05 p.m. first pitch. We have Jesus Luzardo of the Phillies over 4.5 hits allowed, -110 odds on DraftKings is what I'm grabbing it for. And the data is very favorable here. You see 8 of his last 10 games, Jesus Luzardo has cashed the over, averaging 6.7 hits allowed per game over the last 10 games. If you go ahead and look at the entire season view, which is now 20 starts for him, 15 out of 20 starts this year. He's cashed the over. That is, of course, a 75% hit rate, averaging 5.9 hits allowed per game this season. So not so great numbers for Jesus Luzardo individually, but for us, the betting public who's betting on his over, fantastic value here. We have no head-to-head data versus Boston. Unfortunately, we do have the insights provided by Outlier, though. So one silver lining there, despite the lack of head-to-head data. Jesus Luzardo has exceeded 4.5 hits allowed in 8 of his last 9 games at home. He's averaging about 6.7 hits allowed per game over the last 9 home games. That is an 89% hit rate. So really good numbers there. Pretty solid data across the board for Luzardo. And if we refer to the dashboard over on GuyBostonSports.com, now Boston coming out of the All-Star break, the first couple games, they've done what they've done a lot this year. Whenever they build that positive momentum, they go on these cold streaks where they look like such an incompetent team with some stupid, disastrous mistakes. And the offense hasn't been fantastic. However, if we do look at the last 30 days overall, they have been pretty solid. Second best offense in terms of batting average in Major League Baseball over the last 30 days. And look at the overall numbers. I mean, you see here OPS 1, ISO 1, slugging 1, WRC plus 3, batting average 2. Now, we narrow that down a little further to the left-handed pitchers, which obviously is the matchup here with Luzardo. They're still top 10 in batting average, still top 10 in OPS, ISO, and slugging. Now, the strikeout rate does increase. The walk percentage decreases. OBP decreases. A couple of, little troubling numbers there, but overall, this is still a pretty solid matchup. And looking at Jesus Luzardo, he basically utilizes just 3 pitches. Slider, which is 45.3% of his pitches. Fastball, 43.3%. And sinker, 11.3%. And you look at Boston over the last 30 days, they're batting versus individual pitch types when talking about runs above average. Fastball, top 5 in Major League Baseball, 5th actually. The sinker, second best offense. You look at the fastball, sinker, and what was the other one? Slider, 4th. So top 5 in all 3 of his key pitches. Again, it just seems like a really good matchup now with Boston's offense, especially how they looked the first couple games coming out of the All-Star break. Cause for concern, of course, but I do think the matchup is phenomenal here when taking into consideration how Boston's looked in general over the last month. Again, the last couple of days, not great, but overall, that little stretch they had before the All-Star break, they were one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, so that all makes sense. Again, I think it's a pretty good matchup. The line is 4.5, so it's not that high of a line. I think 5 hits is pretty reasonable for a guy who's cashing it at a 75% hit rate this year. So that's our 4th player prop in today's video. All right, guys, and our 5th and final player prop in today's video, we have Yankees, Blue Jays, 7:07 p.m. first pitch. We got Cody Bellinger of the New York Yankees over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. We're grabbing that for minus 140 on BetMGM is what I'm going to go ahead and take this for. And again, kind of the consistent theme throughout the video. The data is very solid here. Cody Bellinger, especially over the last 10 games, 8 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 3.9 hits, runs, RBIs per game over the last 10 games. But if we do go ahead and stretch this out to even the last 20 games, phenomenal run for Cody Bellinger right now with the Yankees. 85% hit rate over his last 20 games, 17 of his last 20. He's cashed the over, averaging 3.55 hits, runs, RBIs per game over the last 20 games. He, of course, leading into the All-Star break, had this incredible streak of cashing this line. A couple misses now right before the All-Star break, and then the other night versus Atlanta. A couple misses there, but even just last night versus Toronto, this same team, he had 3 hits, 2 runs, and an RBI. So coming off a very solid performance just last night versus the same Blue Jays team. And if we go ahead and stretch the data out the entire season view, not nearly as impressive, but still very solid, 52% hit rate, 48 out of 92 games this year. He's cashed the over, averaging 2.36 hits, runs, RBIs per game this season. So, like I said, the more recent numbers, the last 20 games, home run level data, right? Phenomenal numbers, 85% hit rate. You're not going to find much better than that, especially when it's under minus 150 in terms of odds. The overall data is still okay, just not great like the last 20 games that you can definitely see. That's that hot streak he was on. A lot more red from an overall standpoint, but again, pretty good numbers. And from a head-to-head perspective, and we have a decent sample size here, 8 of his last 11 matchups versus Toronto, he's cashed the over. So he's had a lot of success against the Blue Jays, 73% hit rate across the last 11 matchups, averaging 2.55 hits, runs, RBIs per game across the last 11 matchups with Toronto. But maybe most importantly, he's played them 8 times so far this season as a member of the New York Yankees. These first 3 were last year when he was still in Chicago with the Cubs. He's played them 8 times so far this year. He's cashed the over in 7 of those 8 games with some pretty solid performances throughout. So, again, the more recent numbers, the more relevant data, the current season data here, phenomenal. Again, only one miss back on a doubleheader, by the way, on April 27th. So the only time he's failed to cash this over was playing the second game of a doubleheader on the same day. Besides that second game, phenomenal numbers across the board for Cody Bellinger against the Blue Jays. And again, the insights provided by Outlier, just kind of reiterating what we talked about here, but the recent run that he's been on. He's cashed this over of 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 16 of his last 18 games, averaging 3.7 hits, runs, RBIs per game over his last 18 games. So like I said, kind of reiterating what we already talked about, but just sort of narrowing it down a little bit further to the last 18 games to really show you guys that he's been on a crazy run right now with the Yankees. We do have some decent head-to-head data to go off of here as well. Cody Bellinger versus Chris Bassitt since 2018, 14 plate appearances, so a pretty decent sample size. 250 batting average, 357 OBP. Again, some pretty solid numbers there. And one more time, jumping over the dashboard over on Guy Boston Sports, you do see Cody Bellinger here over the last 30 days versus right-handed pitchers, 304 batting average, 807 OPS. So really solid numbers. And from an overall standpoint, he's been okay versus right-handed pitchers this year, 258 batting average, 114.1 WRC plus from an overall standpoint. But again, narrowing it down to this last month, which is where he's been on this hot streak, 304 batting average and 807 OPS versus right-handed pitchers. And again, Chris Bassitt versus left-handed hitters, really struggling, 159 whip on the year, 305 batting average. So again, very favorable matchup here for Cody Bellinger. Minus 140, a little high in terms of the odds, but definitely worth the value. So really solid player prop to go ahead and close out today's video. Guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and drop a comment down below. It's good to be back. First video back from vacation, officially in the books. Hopefully, we can come back from vacation and start a little hot streak. If you guys remember, if you guys are regular watchers, I was the hottest man on YouTube when it came to player prop betting. Going into my golf trip vacation back in May, which was a week long, not, this long Greek trip. And we were so hot, we came back from vacation, and then we got really cold for a while. A lot of people in the comments kept saying, go take another vacation to reverse it. We'll see if that theory gets, actually, we did put it to the test, I guess. We'll see if that theory gets proven true here. Coming back from vacation, will we now go on the hottest streak of the year, or will it be similar to what the golf trip did, and we go a little cold afterwards? Or will none of these superstitions matter at all? I am a little stitious. So, we'll go ahead and see. But hopefully this starts a hot streak and we can get really going here coming back from vacation. We'll be back tomorrow, guys, with another MLB Player Prop video. Until then, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Wednesday. Happy hump day. Let's go ahead and make some money, baby. Let's go.